lecture, we will discuss about the topic of lemmelidens. The lemmelidens, in this, we will discuss about the feeding, we will discuss about the general characteristics, we will also discuss about locomotion as well as the life cycle of the lemmelidens and the questions and the respiratory system. The questions have been asked from these portions, so we will discuss them in detail. And you can see this is the diagram of lemmeliden, the muscle, the water muscle. So if you see that this is the shell, this is the hinge, here it's the hinge, this is the foot of the lemmeliden, this is exhalent siphon and this is inhalent siphon. It has anterior adductor muscles, it has posterior adductor muscles, there is a pallial line, this hole is the visceral mass inside it, this is the mantle cavity, this is the foot which is retracted foot and this is protracted foot. So this is the whole structure of the lemmeliden. If you will see, it has two different valves, the left valve and the right valve. So these are the lemmelidens. If you see the external feature of the lemmeliden, here the example is unio. It contains one protrusion called as the umbo. There is a hinge ligament. There are lines of growth. So this is the external structure of the lemmeliden. The shell, it's composed of two laterally compressed valves. That's why it's also called as bivalved shell. These valves, they are joined dorsally by hinge ligament. They have hinge ligament. The shell, it's dark green, brown or black, and it can even be smooth or shiny. It exhibits the concentric growth lines that we saw. The growth lines like these, they were the growth lines. The umbo, it's the oldest part of the shell and it's anterior and prominent. Its size, it varies from 5 centimeter to 12 centimeter in the length. The symmetry, the animal is bilaterally symmetrical, but the shell valves, they are not completely symmetrical. Body organization, there is a mantle. Inside the mantle there is soft tissue lining the inner shell and it secretes the shell material. So if there is this mantle will secrete the shell material, and it has inhalent and exhalent siphons for water flow. The foot is large, muscular, and it's hatchet shaped. The foot is like this inside the shell, and it is used for burrowing in mud and sand as well as for locomotion. The head is absent, there is not a particular head. The gills are two pairs of large lamellated gills for respiration. These are filter feeding. The mouth and digestive system, the mouth is anterior, surrounded by the labial palps, and they are filter feeders. They trap the microscopic food from the water via gills, and they have a complete digestive tract with stomach, intestine and anus. The physiology, it has open circulatory system. Heart has one ventricle and two auricles, so it has one ventricle and two auricles. Excretory system is metanephridia. Nervous system is poorly developed. There is paired ganglia. Reproductive system has that. They have separate sexes. Some species are hermaphroditic, and fertilization is internal. It has glochidium larva, that is temporary parasitic larva, and then the habitat and habit. The habitat is they are freshwater. They are in the rivers, lakes, ponds, slow moving streams. They also burrow in sand or muddy bottoms, and they are sedentary or filter feeders. So this is the general characteristic about the lemmelidens. Talking about the feeding in lemmelidens, first of all, if you see closely inside, there is this digestive system. Inside the digestive system, you will notice that this is the mouth. Okay, it is just adjacent to the anterior adductor muscles, and you can see foot also here. Now inside the digestive system, this is mouth, and it will go on to stomach. After the stomach, you will see around the stomach there are digestive glands. There is this coiling inside of the intestines. These are intestines, and then it will move forward, and then there is rectum and anus. So there is a complete digestive system. First of all, there is water current creation. The ciliated gills or the ctenidia, they create the water current that draws the water into the mantle cavity through the inhalant siphon. Once the water comes inside, then the filtration of the food takes place. This water, it carries the suspended food particles and they pass them over the gill surface. Once they pass over the gill surface, these gills, they are lamellated and plate like, and they have mucus secreting cells. This mucus secreting cells, they help in trapping the food particle. So once the this food enters into the mucus, the cilia on the gill filament, they move the mucus bound food towards the labial palps. Once they move towards the labial palps, these labial palps, they are just situated near the mouth, and they sort the food. They put the edible particles into the mouth and they reject the indigestible particles. Then the ingestion and digestion takes place. There are digestive glands, it helps in the digestion of the food, and lastly there will be egestion through the anus, and this anus is located near the exhalant siphon. So it will be located near the exhalant siphon. So this is a holistic understanding of the feeding in the lamellidans. It has been explained through the flow chart. You can use the same flow chart in exam. It will be more easy for you to write in the answers. Then the locomotion in lamellidans. Locomotion is, if you see the step-by-step locomotion in lamellidans, first of all there will be the protrusion of the feet. Okay, there will be the protrusion of the foot. So firstly there will be protrusion. Means the foot, it will come out of the shell. So after the protrusion of the foot is extended out of the shell by filling it with the hemolymph, and then the muscle in the foot, they relax, and the pressure from the hemolymph, it pushes the foot outwards. After that there will be anchoring. The anchoring takes place by the foot, it penetrates the soft substrate of the mud. So now the anchoring takes place. After anchoring at a place, after anchoring on the soft substrate mud, this foot, it will swell, it will slightly, in order to anchor itself firmly, so it will swell at a portion. So it will swell, you can see it will swell. So nextly, the body, it will push its body towards the foot. Longitudinal muscles will contract and it will pull the body forward towards the foot, and once it has been pulled, it will slowly, the body mass will move in that direction and the cycle will repeat. The foot will further protrude towards further position, and then it will slowly move forward. So this is how the locomotion takes place in the lamellidans. So this will be the contraction and pulling. So these are the steps in the locomotion. After that, the respiration takes place. Okay, we have respiration. In case of respiration, there is firstly understanding the main parts of the respiratory system. You can observe here the most important parts that are, these are the gills. Okay, these are the gills. These are the outer lamellae of the gills. Then inside them there are water tubes. There is inner gill lamina. There is this chamber called as a suprabranchial chamber. Here will be suprabranchial chamber. So this is the basic understanding of how the gills are arranged inside the body. So this whole is the shell, and this is the arrangement of gills inside the body. And yes, this is the transverse section of the outer gill lamella. These are called as a branchial filaments, and there are small ostia from where the water enters and the water circulates in the water tubes. So these are the branchial filaments. This is the interlamella. So they are arranged in the form of lamella, and there are interlamellar junctions. Inside there are water tubes. So this is the structure of the gill, and these gills, the respiratory organs, these are the ctenidia or the gills. These are the primary respiratory organs in you. They are paired cnidia, also called as the gills. And each side of the body has two gills. You see here you have two gills. Each side of the body has two gills, and in total we have four gill plates. Then these gills, they have two lamellae and they are jointed ventrally in order to form a V or W shaped structure, and these are lamellated or filamentous. So these are lamellated or filamentous, and they are in this pattern in order to increase the surface area. So the surface of each filament, it has cilia which generates the water currents. Okay, so the water current system, the unio, it draws the water into the mantle cavity through the inhalant siphon, and the water, it passes through the suprabranchial chamber and across the gill lamellae. So there is gaseous exchange. The oxygen is absorbed into the blood from the water. The carbon dioxide is released from the blood to water, and then deoxygenated water, it's expelled through the exhalant siphon. So the blood supply to the gills are highly richly supplied with the blood vessels, and there is oxygen deficient blood is carried from the body to the gills, and after the oxygenation the blood is collected and transported to the auricles of the heart. So this is a general understanding of the respiration. So first of all, there will be a ciliary action initiates the water flow. It is through the epithelial cells, ciliated epithelial cells. There is rhythmic currents of water. The water will enter through the inhalant siphon, and then the water enters the body via the inhalant siphon. The water will contain the dissolved oxygen and microscopic food particles. It will pass through the gill lamellae. The water flows into the branchial chambers, and it will pass through the spaces between the gill filaments, and then the gill, it is folded in such a way that they will form vertical water tubes. The gaseous exchange in the gills, there is diffusion of gases which occurs through the thin moist gill epithelium, and the oxygen, it diffuses from the water into the blood in the gill filaments. So this is a simple exchange of gases over the gills that happens in the air sacs too in the body. So the blood, it's oxygenated in the gill filaments which are richly vascularized. Later on, the water, it gets collected in the suprabranchial chamber, which are the two chambers like this around the gills, which is then it's just located above the gills, and this water, it will exit through the exhalant siphon, which is the deoxygenated water. And this is how the blood circulates. This oxygenated blood from the gills, it's sent into the auricles of the heart, then to the ventricle, and finally pumped to all the blood body tissue. So this is the respiratory mechanism. Next, we will understand the reproduction, the life cycle in the muscle. Life cycle in unio. As you know, it has the adult male and female. It will produce the sperm and ovum, which will enter into the female. So the first of all, gamete formation takes place, the sperm and eggs, and the fertilization, it's through its internal, and it will happen in the intrabranchial chamber of the body. So these sperms, they will enter into the intrabranchial chamber of the female, where it will fertilize, and after the fertilization, the zygote, it will undergo development and it will form the glochidium larva. So after the glochidium larva is formed, it will attach itself on the gills of the fish. The fish will act as a host. After that, it will slowly grow, it will slowly develop into the juvenile, and finally it will develop into the adult. So this is how it develops. So the development of glochidium larva takes place. The glochidium is a parasitic stage. This glochidium will attach to the gills through the byssus. There is a byssus, a thread. Then metamorphosis will happen. It will detach itself from the gill, and then the adult stage will develop, and this adult is a benthic stage. It will come and settle down on the bottom of the ocean, and this is the general structure of the glochidium. There is a hinge ligament. Then there are sensory bristles. There is byssus, a thread-like structure which helps in adhesion. There is mantle, there is shell valve, there are adductor muscles. So this is the whole structure of the glochidium larva. In this lecture, we will discuss about the pila. This is Pila globosa. The structure of the pila, its shell is in this way. It has an operculum, it has an outer lip. Here is the operculum. This is umbilicus. There is a columnar lip. This is varix, and these are the sutures. This is the apex, and this is the body whorl. This whole structure is the body whorl. Inside you will see there is spire here at the top, and this is the columella. Inside it's segmented like in this pattern. There is a septum like structure called as the columella. If you see closely, these are the organs that fit into the mantle cavity, the cavity inside. It has a proper mouth, it has a head. This is a head. These are first tentacles, these are the second tentacles. There are eyes. This is the left pseudoepipodium, and here will be the right pseudoepipodium. There is a penis. Here is the penis. Here is the anus. There is male genital pore in this portion. There is osphidium for respiration. This is the mantle. This is the pulmonary sac. This whole structure is the pulmonary sac. Then this is the tenidium, the lamellated tenidium or the gill that helps in the respiration. There is branchial chamber inside. This is the mantle. This is epithenia. This portion is epithenia. So this is the coiled visceral mass. These are the intestines. There are kidneys. So this is the whole structure of the pila. The pila is in the phylum Mollusca, class is Gastropoda, subclass is Prosobranchia, order is Mesogastropoda. Genus is Pila and species is here Pila globosa, also called as the apple snail. They are freshwater, they are amphibious. So yes, the question has been asked about, give one example, explain about the amphibious mollusks. So they can survive both on water and on moist land. They exhibit the estivation and hibernation. They occur in the burrows during the dry or the cold conditions. And the body structure, body is soft, unsegmented and bilaterally symmetrical, and the body is divisible into head, foot and visceral mass as well as in mental. The shell is globular, rounded and coiled univalve shell, and it's composed of calcium carbonate. There are spiral whorls with pointed apex and are covered by a protective periostracum layer, the horny layer. The operculum is present as we saw in the diagram. The locomotion is through the muscular wave-like motion of the foot, and the digestive system, it's complete. It has mouth, buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach, intestine and anus. There is radula. Radula is helpful in scraping the food. And then the respiration, there is dual respiration as it's amphibian. There is aquatic respiration and aerial respiration. Aquatic is through tenidium and aerial is through the pulmonary sac. The mantle has a partition forming the branchial and pulmonary chambers. The circulatory system is open circulatory system, and the heart is with one auricle and one ventricle. Next, the circulatory system, it's open. The heart has one auricle, one ventricle, and the blood contains hemocyanin as a respiratory pigment. The nervous system has paired ganglia. There is cerebral, neural, pedal, visceral and buccal ganglia. And there are connectives and commissures. The excretion is through metanephridium. The ammonia in water and uric acid on land are the excretory substances, and the reproduction is dioecious. The fertilization is internal, and they lay the eggs in clusters in water, and the development is direct. There is no larval stage in Pila globosa. If you'll see the digestive system, here is the mouth. These are the tentacles. This is the buccal mass. There is salivary glands. This is the esophageal pouches. This is esophagus. Then it will go into the stomach, and from stomach it will enter into the intestines. These are the coiled intestine, and this is the anus, and this is rectum. So this is the structure of the radula. You will see it has teeth-like structure, lateral tooth-like structures. So the mechanism of feeding is that the food is collected through the tentacles and the buccal lobes firstly. And after the food collection, it will be and the food will enter into the mouth. The food will be scraped and cut through the radula. Inside the buccal cavity, this radula, it will move over the odontophore like a chainsaw. So it will act as a scraping and cutting organ. The teeth of the radula, they will scrape, cut or tear the flesh, or tear the plant tissue or the flesh of the plants or algae. Then it will be ingested through the esophagus. Then the digestion will take place inside the stomach. There are certain digestive glands, there are this hepatopancreas, and then there will be absorption and egestion. There will be absorption and egestion. Nutrients are absorbed in the intestine, and then this undigested food, it's passed to the rectum and expelled through the anus. So this is the whole structure of the pila's digestive system. Then talking about the respiratory system, very closely you can see again same in a similar pattern. You will observe there is a mouth, there are tentacles, there are eyes. This is osphoredia. This is the mantle cavity. This is pulmonary sac. This is epithenia. There is rectum, and these are the gills. This is the gills. And gills are lamellated. They are in the form of lamella. This is monopectinate gill. And the respiratory organs, in case of aquatic respiration, there is ctenidium, that is the right chamber of the mantle cavity. And for aerial respiration, there is pulmonary sac, that is lung-like, and it's on the left side of the mantle cavity. The ctenidium, which are the gills or the branchia, it is for aquatic respiration. These are monopectinate gills, and they are located on right side. There are numerous gill filaments, and they are just arranged like the teeth of comb. This is supplied with the blood sinuses for gas exchange. So the water will enter into it, and there will be gaseous exchange. The water will enter through the nuchal, the left nuchal lobe, and it will flow through over the ctenidium. It will exit through the right side, and the oxygen is absorbed and carbon dioxide is released through the diffusion. And in pulmonary sac, it's on the left side of the cavity, and it's highly vascularized pulmonary aperture. Here we saw the pulmonary sac, it's highly vascularized. The pila, it comes to the surface and opens the pneumostome, that is a breathing pore, in order to inhale the air. And then this gaseous exchange takes place in the sac, and the carbon dioxide is expelled out of the body. There are nuchal lobes, or the water air inlet. This left nuchal lobe, it becomes tubular in order to act as a siphon, so that the water will come out into the nuchal lobes, and then it will enter into the gills, so on. And in the similar way, there is this right nuchal lobe. It helps in the expulsion of the water during the aquatic respiration. So the respiratory mechanisms will be in two ways. First one will be the aerial. Aerial is through pulmonary sac, and then this snail, it will come to the surface. It will extend the left nuchal lobe. There will be an inhalant siphon. The air will go into the pneumostome, the pulmonary aperture, into the pulmonary sac, and then it will go in this highly vascularized sac where the gaseous exchange will take place, and then this oxygenated blood, it will go into the pulmonary sac and then to the heart, and the deoxygenated blood, it will come out of the pneumostome. Similarly, we have aquatic respiration. It is through the ctenidium, through the left nuchal lobe. The water will come in. There will be inhalant siphon, and the water, it will flow over the ctenidia, and then the water, it will consist of thin and vascularized gill filaments. They are arranged in the comb-like fashion, and the oxygen from the water, it will diffuse into blood in the gill capillaries, and the carbon dioxide, it is from the blood, it will diffuse out into the surrounding waters, and then the water, it will exit from the right nuchal lobe, and oxygenated blood, it will be transported to the heart and entire body. So this is all about the respiration. After this, you need to understand about the locomotion. Locomotion is simply through the foot. In case of pila, the foot, it will extend out from the shell when the snail is active. Otherwise, you will see it will remain retracted inside and it happens as the hemolymph flows through the foot. It will pressurize the foot to come out. There will be mucus secretion in order to enhance the lubrication. When you see that the snails, when it moves, it has mucus like substance that it secretes. There will be muscle contractions that are the pedal waves, which helps it in the locomotion, and it will move forward. The ciliary action, there are fine cilia on the foot. It may assist in gliding, especially in the young individuals. The foot, they are adapted for anchorage, and they also allow the snail to stick to the submerged surfaces. In waterlogged or the muddy environments, pila may float or climb the submerged plants. So this is all about the locomotion. Now discussing about the life cycle, you will see that the adult snail, they will undergo the copulation. After copulation, they will fertilize. There will be fertilization. The snails will lay the eggs, and there will be direct embryonic development. They will develop into miniature snails, and they will grow into subadults. So there is a simple reproduction. They are dioecious. There will be copulation, eggs are laid, and there will be hatching. They will grow and they will form mature pila or the. This lecture we will discuss about the sepia. Sepia is also called as the cuttlefish. If you will see the structure of the sepia, it will be in this pattern. It's dorsoventrally flattened. There are eyes, prominent eyes are present. There are arms, there are tentacles, and this is specially called as the hectocotylus, that helps in the reproduction later on. This is a fin-like structure, and internally it has a cuttle bone. So internally it has a bone-like structure called as a cuttle bone. So its shell is somewhat internal, and this is a funnel, and this funnel helps in the jet propulsion motion in swimming. So this is the overall structure of this of the sepia. This is the digestive system. You will need notice that there is a jaw, there is buccal mass, there is esophagus, there are digestive glands, there is a proper gizzard and cecum, there are intestines, and there is this anus. So this sepia, it belongs to the phylum Mollusca, class Cephalopoda, order Spida, and genus is Sepia. Common name is the cuttlefish. It's marine. It's found in the shallow coastal waters. These are benthic, and they're mostly found in the Indo-Pacific and Mediterranean region. The body, it is soft, bilaterally symmetrical, dorsoventrally flattened. There is head, trunk, and arms and tentacles. There are two long retractile tentacles used for the prey capture, and then it has 8 arms. And then the shell is internal. There is a cuttle bone, and it has a porous and calcareous shell. It helps in the buoyancy regulation, and unlike the external shells, in case of the cephalopoda, the external shell is present in the nautilus, but here they have internal shells. The locomotion is by jet propulsion or the fin undulation, and sometimes crawls also on the bottom of the ocean. The eyes and sensory organs are present. It has a complex eye, and vision is excellent. It helps in detecting the contrast in motion, and there is status for the balance. The mouth and feeding. The mouth, there is a chitinous beak-like jaw, also called as the radula. They are carnivorous. They prey on the small fish, crabs, and shrimp. The tentacle capture the prey and bring it to the mouth. The circulatory system is closed. It has 3 hearts, 1 systemic heart and 2 branchial heart, and the blood contains hemocyan, and respiration is by 2 gills, and water is drawn into the mantle cavity, and there the water exchange takes place. And they have highly developed brain, and it's a large brain because it has to do some if you will go through some of the videos on YouTube, you will observe that there are certain experiments that have been done with the octopus and the sepia. They have problem solving ability, they have learning and camouflage ability, they possess the ink sacs in order to expel the ink whenever any of the predator or prey comes. So it can just push out through this ink sac. There is release of this ink. That's why this ink is called as a sepia. Sepia is a smoke screen like ink is just produced. is an excellent camouflage, and it uses the chromatophores. It has pigment cells on the body. The reproduction is dioecious. They have internal fertilization. They have a modified arm called as the hectocotylus that helps in the reproduction. And the female, it lays the eggs on the substrate, and the development is direct. There is no larval stage. The feeding, it is through the arms and tentacles. The suckers are present. There is a jaw, chitinous jaw, which is a parrot like jaw, and it has buccal cavity. There is radula for rasping. There are salivary glands for secretion of digestive enzymes. The esophagus, stomach, cecum, and digestive glands are present. So the mechanism of feeding includes that the first the detection of prey takes place. The sepia, it's large, it has a complex eyes which helps in locating the prey. After the detection of the prey, this sepia, it's a visual hunter. There will be capture of the prey using the two long retractile tentacles in order to swiftly seize the prey. There are 8 shorter arms. They help to hold the prey close to the mouth, and there are suckers on the arms and tentacles in order to ensure a strong grip. The killing and pre-digestion takes place. The beak-like jaws, they bite and tear the prey, and the salivary glands, they release the digestive enzymes and toxins which immobilize or partially digest the prey. Then the mechanical breakdown of the food takes place. It is in the radula. Using the radula, the ingestion and digestion. Ingestion is through the esophagus into the stomach. Then the digestive glands will work on it. There will be different enzymes that will work on the food, and there are also other digestive organs like cecum is there. Then the absorption takes place in the intestines, and finally the waste is expelled through the anus. So this is the feeding in general. The locomotion, it shows 3 types of locomotion. It shows 3 types of locomotion. First is the fin based motion. So simply the undulation of fins takes place. It's a slow movement. There is undulation of the fins, and it's rhythmically happens. It is slow and precise, and it helps in the normal swimming, hovering, and maneuvering around the seafloor. Second one is a jet propulsion motion, and it's dynamic and it's very rapid. Here you can see the funnel. It will move forward while it will expel the water through the funnel, and then it is very most powerful and very dramatic and fast. So it also helps it in controlling the adjusting the angle of the funnel. So next one is the crawling motion. Crawling motion is just crawling around the ocean floor in this manner. So it crawls around the ocean floor while hunting or hiding. Next is reproduction. If you will see the male reproductive organs, there is a proper testis, there is vas deferens, there is vesicula seminalis, there is a penis inside it. The sperm sacs are present and prostate gland is present. In females, there is a proper oviduct, there will be nidamental glands, which are the reproductive organs have these glands. The ovary is present. If you will see, first of all, there will be production of an egg. Okay, there will be this adult which will produce the sperms. It will be somewhat like this. This is the spermatophore of this sepia. This is a spermatophore. This is spring apparatus. These are the sperms, and these are the eggs which get attached to the twigs. So after the production of the egg and sperm, they will undergo fertilization. After the fertilization, they will produce these eggs. These eggs, they will attach to the twigs, and inside the eggs they will hatch, and they will produce the juvenile cuttlefish, and slowly they will grow into adolescents. So the reproduction, it's sexual reproduction. Sepia is dioecious and fertilization is internal. It contains the hectocotylus arm that transfers the spermatophore into the mantle cavity of the female, and then it will fertilize, and then it will produce large yolky black or brown eggs, and then attach them in the clusters to rocks or seaweeds. It has a protective capsule. Later on they hatch, and there is this embryonic development. There will be spiral cleavage. It will hatch, and slowly it will prey on the it will use the tentacles to prey the food. It will develop the chromatophores, and slowly it will grow and mature in order to form the adult. Finally it will form an adult, and its normal lifespan is around 1 to 2 years. And this phenomenon where the after reproduction these adults die, this is called as similparity, that is single reproductive cycle in life, because they will die after reproduction. So this is the whole process of reproduction. Now discussing about the respiration, they show the aquatic respiration using the Ctenidia. They have a closed circulatory system. It enables high efficiency of respiration also. So they have Ctenidia, that are the gills, and these gills are bipectinate. You see it has the lamellae on both the sides, filaments on the both sides of the axis, and these are highly they have high supply of the bloods. So it helps in the easy exchange of gases. So the water comes through in the current opening, the inside the mantle contraction and relaxation. It will help in order to control the water flow, and then there will be gaseous exchange across the lamellae of the gills, and the water will come like this, and there will be the gaseous exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. The water from the carbon dioxide, it will be expelled through the deoxygenated water out of the funnel or the siphon, and this is a whole way of respiration in case of the sepia. Next, the question has been asked about the trochophore larva in previous year questions, so we will discuss this. So trochophore larva, it's a free swimming ciliated planktonic larva. It is considered the ancestral in many marine invertebrates, especially in the mollusk and annelids, and it appears in the early development. It may be followed by the valiger stage, or simply into the some juvenile stage. So if you will see the structure of the trochophore larva, it has an apical tuft. There is the apical organ, there is nerve, there is stomach, there is eye spot, there is proper mouth. This whole is structure is called as a metatroch. There is a food groove, there are protonephridia, there is neurotroch, there are intestine, anus, and telotroch at the end. So the shape is top shaped or spherical. The cilia are present as a prototroch. These are the preoral ciliated bands. They are for locomotion and feeding. They have apical tuft, which are sensory in nature. Digestive tract is complete with mouth and anus. There are growth zones, area where the nerve cells are added, and telotroch is the post-anal ciliary band in some of the forms of the trochophore. So the evolutionary significance of the trochophore larva is that it acts as a connecting link between the Annelida and Mollusca, and they have a shared evolutionary origin. They both support that the phyla they have evolved from a common ancestor, and this common ancestor was called as Trochozoa or Urbilateria. The trochophore larva is considered as the plesiomorphic ancestral trait. So it supports the Lophotrochozoa clade. The Lophotrochozoa clade, it contains a group of protostome animals that includes the Mollusca, Annelida, Sipencula, Nemertea, Brachiopoda. The presence of the trochophore larva in several of these groups, it strengthens their grouping into the clade, and it acts as a developmental character for the phylogenetic classification. It also helps in understanding the metamerism. The annelids, the trochophore develops into the segmented worms, and in mollusk it will develop into veliger or the juvenile form. So it helps in the body plan diversification, understanding the evolution of the segmentation also, and body plan diversification too. So the adaptation to the marine environment, this trochophore larva, they are planktonic and free swimming. They help in the wide dispersal and colonization of free habitats, because it has all the qualities to disperse across the ocean. And then the foundation for larval evolution is through the trochophore. It forms the basis for the evolution of the veliger larva and many other modified larvae in protostomes. So it is considered as an ancestral larva. Next, the questions regarding the shells have been asked. The shells, these are the prominent features in the mollusks. They are protective, structural, and ecologically functional in the mollusks, and they are calcareous exoskeletons. They are secreted by the mantle. origin is that they are epidermal. In origin, the epidermal cells of the mantle, they secrete the shell, and they are composed mainly of the calcium carbonate or the aragonite. The small amount of the organic material can be the conchiolin. So if you will see the different layers of the shell, there are three main layers. First one is the periostracum, that is the outermost layer. It is made of conchiolin, that's a protein. It's a thin, organic, and pigmented layer, and it protects the erosion and boring of the organism. And then there is prismatic layer, that is the middle layer. It's a thick, it's a calcium carbonate layer. Then there we have nacreous layer, that is the inner layer or the mother of the pearl layer. It is smooth, iridescent, beautifully colored, and it's found in bivalves. It helps in the pearl formation. So here are the three layers. If you will see closely, inner one is a nacre, this is middle one is perismatic, it's a thicker layer, and periostracum, that is the outermost layer. Next, there are various types of molluscan classes which show different types of shells. First of all, we have Monoplacophora. It's a simple cap-like shell. You can see in Monoplacophora, simple cap-like shell. Second is Polyplacophora. It has 8 dorsal plates that has articulated shells. Here is the Polyplacophora. It has 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 dorsal shells. Then we have Gastropoda. These gastropods, they have spirally and coiled shell. Gastropods have a coiled shell. For example, in Pila. In Bivalvia, we have 2 shells with that connected through a hinge joint. Then we have Scaphopoda, which is tubular. For example, Dentalium, it is tusk shaped. Then in Cephalopoda, we saw there was an internal shell, that was a cuttle bone. And then Aplacophora, in Aplacophora the shell is absent. So this is also about the shell. The question has been asked in the past about the shell, and we have completed all the topics or mollusks. We have completed all the previous year questions.